Check it out. It's February 3rd, 2009. The Pittsburgh Steelers just played the Arizona Cardinals in the Super Bowl. It was a wild game with 2 late touchdowns, the last one being a game winner for the Steelers, who ended up being the Super Bowl champions. They celebrated, handed out the trophy, had a little parade on the field, and then everyone turned off their TVs and went to bed. Well, everyone except for some people living in Seattle. At least soccer fans living in Seattle. See, shortly after the NFL season ends, capped by the Super Bowl, the MLS season begins. And in 2009, there was a new addition to the MLS, the Seattle Sounders. To celebrate, the Sounders decided to hold a competition for the final roster spot on the new team, holding tryouts across the state of Washington to find the 10 best players. Over the next few weeks, these players would compete in a series of different competitions in front of judges that would then select the best player. The final match happening on live TV right after the Super Bowl. The winner was Vinny Oliveira, a center forward who played at a local community college, one that I actually went to. I wish I could make this video about how this turned into a fairy tale story, about how he turned into this legendary player and had this amazing career, but he wasn't. He got cut a few weeks later. What I did want to highlight though is how far that Sounders team has come. That same team that was running a joke of a promotional campaign to fill out its roster, a little over a decade later, is now worth more than half of the teams in the Premier League. Aston Villa, who's ranked 10th in terms of value in the Premier League, comes in at around $364 million. The Seattle Sounders today are valued at over $400 million. And what's crazy is they're not even the top valued franchise in the MLS. Atlanta United is right on par with recent champions Leicester City, both at around $500 million. And following the recent sale in a minority stake of the franchise, LAFC is now estimated to have a value of over $700 million. And according to Forbes, the average MLS team is now valued at $313 million. That's close to about 70% the average value of a Premier League team. Now, just one quick flag, I am picking 2019 as the basis for all the statistics in this video, just because that was kind of like the last normal year that we've had. So we gotta ask the question, how are these valuations possible? The MLS is an average product at best, and that's me being generous. Not to mention, the money it makes is nowhere near the amount made by these other leagues, especially the Premier League. So why are the teams valued so much? Well, let's dig into that. First thing we need to keep in mind is that valuations incorporate future earnings and potential growth, not just income. And growth is something that Major League Soccer has done very well. In 2009, Sounders were the 15th team to join the league. That number is now expected to double by 2023, where there will be 30 teams in the MLS. That's a new team every single year. Now, as a result, this has caused a mad rush of potential owners competing to join the league, each significantly outbidding the other. This was capped recently by the new franchise being added in Charlotte, North Carolina, whose owners spent a record $325 million to join the MLS. That's almost triple what the record was a decade earlier, at around $100 million for NYCFC. Owners are seeing an opportunity to get in on a major sports league at its inception. Seeing the value of all the other major sports teams in the US, they want in before the values really start to balloon in the MLS as well. And this also feeds into the second reason the league has managed to maintain such high values for its team. And that's really the result of it being a much more safe investment than other teams around the world. This is because of things like a salary cap, which maintains an equal playing field for teams financially, and also making it very hard for teams to go into major debt. And also a result of the league maintaining a closed system, not offering things like second divisions or relegation. As a result, it's a safer investment, ensuring that the owners, no matter how good or bad their team, are able to sleep at night knowing that their team is still going to be able to play in the best league in the country, getting all of that exposure. And while there are other leagues in the US, none of them even come remotely close to Major League Soccer, ensuring that it will always be the only show in town. In total, given it's the only league in the country, there's no real risk of competition and no real risk of relegation. Now, with all that being said, to my earlier point, and I cannot stress this enough, value and income are two very different things. Again, part of what's baked into the valuation is future profits and growth. But in terms of current profits and revenue, it's a very different story when comparing these two leagues. Arsenal, for example, turned a profit nearly every year since 2003, pulling in nearly $100 million in pre-tax income in 2018. And they're not alone in this. The Premier League as a whole generally trends in the green, with only a handful of teams ever having negative profits. Now, the MLS is a much different story. Very few, if any, of the teams make any profits, and those that do are doing so by the skin of their teeth. In 2018, the total profit across all the Premier League teams was $502 million. Major League Soccer, in contrast, in total lost $105 million across all of its teams. The average profit for a Premier League team in 2018 was $25 million. The MLS, negative $4.5 million. And we can even dig into this a bit further. The team that brought in the highest profit in the Premier League that season was Liverpool at $192 million. That same year, the most profitable team in the MLS was Atlanta United at $7 million. That's 3% the profit of Liverpool. So we gotta ask, does it make sense for MLS teams to be valued so high, especially since the league isn't profitable? Well, I'd argue yes, for a couple of reasons. First, and simply put, you're worth whatever people are willing to pay for. If people are willing to pay $700 million for your franchise, it's worth $700 million. But on a deeper level, aside from just that, does this valuation make sense? And to that again, I would say absolutely. Valuations are based on a potential for growth, not just current income. It's the same reason why Tesla is valued more than Ford and General Motors combined. If we were to base it strictly off the balance sheet, just like the MLS, it might not make much sense. Ford raked in $155 billion in revenue in 2019. General Motors brought in $137 billion. Tesla, on the other hand, brought in $24 billion. That's 8% of the revenue at more than double the valuation of those two companies. But again, the prospect of growth in a company like Tesla is much different than GM or Ford. Tesla has been developing electric, semi-autonomous vehicles for over a decade now. GM and Ford are only starting to ramp up production of those vehicles. The former stating that they need until 2035 before they can make a full transition into only selling electric vehicles. Where Tesla was 10 years ago is where GM and Ford are aiming to be in 15 years. Building strictly electric, semi-autonomous vehicles at scale and at a reasonable price is something that Tesla will have over a decade head start on. This is why their potential for growth outweighs their balance sheet when it comes to valuations. Where they're going to be is much more valuable than where GM and Ford are today. The same logic can be applied here with the MLS. It's a growing league with a ton of potential, hence the high valuation. Though I'd argue the league isn't competing against the Premier League or La Liga or any of the other leagues in the world. The MLS in a lot of ways has grown as a result of those leagues. It's a complement to the Premier League in that the two don't overlap. The MLS mainly plays in the spring and summer, peaking when the Premier League and most every other league in the world are on break. That's how you have instances of players like Zlatan Ibrahimovic playing for both Manchester United and the LA Galaxy in the same year. The equivalent of this would be like if Tesla sold you a car for only the 3 months of the year you didn't drive your Ford Mustang. The second thing I'd mention regarding the MLS is the audience they're targeting. Rather than focusing on national or international exposure like a lot of the other leagues, the MLS has opted to focus on building local, loyal fan bases. Rather than creating one big fan base, the MLS has effectively created 30 small fan bases, one in each city it has a team. It's a running joke in the football world that there's soccer fans and then there's MLS fans. The idea being that MLS fans only care about their league and not any of the other leagues. Now, of course, this is an extremely arbitrary analysis, but based on my experience having lived in a few cities that have MLS teams, I would argue this is very, very true. There's little to no correlation between local MLS fans and the rest of the league, or the rest of world soccer for that matter. But the passion that they have for their team is something I've rarely seen from anywhere else. And it shows given how insane the attendance numbers are for the league, both in a vacuum and when comparing it to all the other leagues in the world, regardless of sport. The average capacity of an MLS stadium is 22,800. The average attendance in 2019, 21,311. That's almost 96% capacity across the league. To put this in perspective, that puts it well above the NBA, who gets approximately 4,000 less fans per game on average than the MLS, and at a lower percentage of attendance at only 94%. It also puts it not too far behind La Liga, one of the biggest leagues across all sports in the entire world, who get approximately 26,000 per game, though only at 67% capacity. So to summarize, the valuation of Major League Soccer teams does kind of make sense. It's proven itself effective in drawing local support, and with an upcoming TV rights deal in 2023, we could really see an opportunity for teams to begin turning a profit, spending more on players, and becoming one of the top leagues in the world. One of the things that's held the league back so much is the strict salary cap, something that doesn't exist in other leagues. While providing a level playing field, it restricts the quality of players on the field, with teams often spending big on strikers and building a defense with the remains. But combine bigger pockets with the rapid growth the league has seen, the loyal support it gets from local fan bases, and the lack of competition it sees given the time of year that it plays, and I wouldn't be surprised to see one day the MLS becoming the biggest league in the world. I gotta say, we've come a long way from this. All right, y'all. Thank y'all so much for making it through another video. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe below. It means a lot. I'm just still building this up, and any sort of support that I can get is greatly, greatly, greatly appreciated. I can't thank each and every one of you that have been supportive thus far. To everyone that's just coming along for this ride, I appreciate any support that you can provide. Promise, y'all keep supporting this. I'm extremely optimistic that eventually one day this will turn into something. But I can't do that without y'all support. So please make sure, drop a like, drop a comment, hit the subscribe. Thank y'all. I love y'all. Have a great rest of your day. Peace. Has it been shaking like this the whole time? Y'all gonna have to deal with that. I ain't re-recording this one again. Y'all gonna have to deal with this. Y'all gonna have to deal with this. I did not realize it was shaking like this the whole time. Oh my goodness. Oh man. Oh, y'all wanna see some snow? Check this out. Snow. But yeah, oh God, I cannot believe this shit was shaking the whole time. What can I do? What can I do? That's the name of the game. All right, y'all. Peace.